Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Hail Yes, a Detroit Free Press podcast about University of Michigan athletics. I'm Tony Garcia, Michigan football and basketball writer for the Free Press. And for the next 2 weeks, I guess we will add hockey to that mix. The Wolverines headed back to the Frozen Four for a third consecutive season. I will be going down to Yost for a press conference later today, headed to St. Paul next week, where they take on 1 seed Boston College on Thursday. It's no Tampa, but hey, like it was last year, it is what it is. And yeah, well, like I said, 1 seed, but BC, it seems like a tall task, but anything is possible. Isn't that right? As I bring in our Big Ten insider, Reiner Saban.
Yeah,
you were here to break down Michigan Puck, right?
It's also possible that Minnesota has become your version of my Indianapolis. You just seem to go there all the time now. Might as well just get an apartment there.
What's sad is Indianapolis is also my Indianapolis. It's anything that ends in Appolis except Annapolis in Maryland. Minneapolis, Indianapolis, any local Appolis, you can find me there really half the time. I think, what was it? So we were there in October for when Michigan played Minnesota, and then it was an extended stay because it was Big Ten basketball media day. So that was like a 5-day stay. And then I was just there a few weeks ago for the Big Ten tournament. That was a pretty quick turnaround. Michigan won and done on a Wednesday night. So that was short. But yes, third time in less than 6 months. We also have, of course, and he will be, not that he's not always essential, but you may hear him even a little more than normal, than our normal shows. We have our producer and editor, Andrew Burkle, here with us on the ones and twos. You're ready to get spicy. Is that right, Andrew?
More like I'm going to be like the dunk contest ref. You'll be the spice. You'll bring the spice, and I'll be the one rating from on a certain scale, holding up the sign. So that'll be my job today.
All right, ready to get judgmental then, is what you could say.
First of all, always ready to get judgmental.
If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Yes,
that's right. So we started off talking about hockey, and really I probably could have dealt. I mean, this could be a full basketball podcast, right? I've got some phone calls later today. There are assistant hires that are moving in the mix. Nothing reported yet, so we're not even touching that. So is a ton of Michigan athletics to do. However, Reiner, we're halfway through the Michigan football spring season. As crazy as that sounds, their 8th practice is today of 15, so literally the halfway mark. And that has given enough time to meet some of the new faces, right? We've met Brian Jean-Marie. We've met some of the guys who are coming back, who Miles Hinton, Josiah Stewart, right? Not met, but discussed with them anew. Donovan Edwards, why have you come back? We've talked about really the defense getting after the offense so far early on. So we're starting to get a sense of what this new team will look like. And that's given me at least, or what I think, enough to go off of. So I've come up with a list of 5, what I think are anywhere from relatively to quite hot takes. And I want you, Reiner, and Andrew, we're going to go 1 to, do we want to go 5 or 1 to 10? Because 1 to 5, I was going to say you can go halves, but then if you're a 4.5 is really just a 9. So let's
just go 1 to 5. We'll keep it 1 to 5 for easier reasons.
We like Yelp ratings.
But if you feel really passionate, Reiner, you can go with 4.5. We'll allow it.
Yes. No.
Yeah, I think we'll do the Yelp rating scale.
Okay. Yelp rating scale. Very
4
good.
forks. 4 forks.
Reiner, what is your Yelp? Do you have a Yelp account? And what is your?
I don't have a Yelp account. Yeah, no. That would require.
Can you imagine Reiner just
feel like someone who leaves a lot of reviews?
No, I did not. I will not. That's the one thing I will not do is leave Google reviews or Yelp reviews. I don't want anybody coming after me for my take on their restaurant or food or whatever. But because
even under a burner account.
No, I wouldn't even create a burner. No, I would never create a burner account. That's just weak sauce. I mean, that is weak sauce. Okay.
Can you imagine Ryder going full column mode on like some like pizza place, like dropping the full vocabulary,
A
Ryder saying
narrative.
special, a narrative?
Dude,
I actually can see it, like you said, Tony.
It might inversely publicly drive traffic. So
It's funny.
that's probably why he stays away.
Yeah, no. With I cook a lot, so I always ask my girlfriend what her rating is on the food, so that actually I get real time reviews on that, and we do it in the Yelp.
Was she honest?
I met her. She was really
She
nice.
is.
She was very nice. Is she just giving you a good grade every time?
No, she's pretty honest because she actually helps with the cooking process, so she's got a part in it. So
she's biased.
Yeah, a little bit. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, it's a tainted jury. Hopefully,
it's not a totally review in any way, shape, or form. So,
okay. Well, this is serious business.
But Shea Ryder's always like a pretty highly rated restaurant, probably one of the best in Ann Arbor.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this will be the highest highest rated hot takes in Ann Arbor, at least today. So, but just before we do it, I always put it at the end or forget. So I'm just going to say it now because we're kind of rolling. It would help if everybody could rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you get them, whether that be Apple Pod, Google Pod. We are a little hit or miss on YouTube, but I know we do our best, so you can look at us too to be there as well. Spotify, pretty much anywhere you listen to your podcast. If you search Hail Yes, we'll do it. And maybe share it with a friend or family who likes Michigan content, right? We like to have a good time, and Reiner and I are at everything. We are. If there is anything notable happening with Michigan athletics, one of us or both of us is there. So ideally, you like to hear about it. And this is a great place to do that. And we couldn't do that. I felt so bad. I didn't give thanks last time, so I'm going to do it right now off the top, so I can't forget. I'm going to give thanks to our editor-in-chief, Nicole Avery Nichols, our executive editor, Anjanette Delgado, our sports editor, Kirkland Crawford, our audio engineer, Robin Chan, as well, who are all the reason why we can do this. There we go. So without any further ado, gentlemen, hot take number 1. Michigan defense will be number 1 in the nation once again. It doesn't matter that they lost 3 starters from the defensive line, 2 from the secondary, both starting linebackers. Number 1 defense in the nation once more.
Pretty spicy take. I'm going to probably go like 4.8 on the spiciness level. I think that's
okay. Here, we'll get Andrew. Sorry, I should have explained. We'll get Andrew's grade, then I'll make a case, and then you sort of give your rebuttal. Okay.
Okay.
Is that good? Okay, Andrew.
I'm gonna go with solid 4. I think it's just like a rock solid 4 on the hot take scale.
Okay, very good. I really want to land about 4, 3.5 to 4 for most of these. So that's good, because I don't want to be burning Reiner's mouth. But here's the thought, right? Will Johnson, for my money, is maybe the best defensive back in America. But you asked a great question, Reiner, about how much zone they've been playing under some of these previous coordinators, and they may switch a little more man. Will Johnson give him some press man coverage? He loves that. And then the Mason Graham, Kenneth Gray in the middle, for my money, the best defensive tackle combination in the country. You do have, it was Derek Moore and Josiah Stewart who were on the field for the game deciding play against Alabama, right? They are now your lead edges. I've been hearing great things about TJ Guy coming up. And yes, you lose some linebackers, but Ernest Hausman was the real deal. He filled in for both Junior Colson and Michael Barrett last year. To have the knowledge and the understanding to do that, and the athletic ability, unbelievable. And Jayshon Barham, we saw him pick J.J. McCarthy in the end zone, right? So we know he's got even that. But he's a run stuffer. He's an athletic sideline to sideline linebacker. It's just and then in the secondary, you got Makari Page coming back. I'm not sure about the other safety as well, Rod Moore. He may be banged up. We have not gotten confirmation on that, but this is a ton of guys. It's a ton of depth, and Wake Martindale knows how to coordinate a defense.
Well, I think when you change out your entire defensive staff from the previous year. I think that's a huge, transformation. I mean, you've got people emphasizing different teaching points. There's no way that they can replicate the exact teaching methods and everything they did last year. And I think that's going to be a big learning curve for some of this because, I mean, again, Wink Martindale's bringing in his own flavor of this defense, and he runs a lot more man coverage, and he blitzes a lot more. Again, Jesse Minter and Mike McDonald before him, but particularly Jesse Minter ran a lot of simulated pressures. I mean, they're bringing 4, but it looks like they're bringing more. And, they're overloading one side. And, again, they were able to maintain the coverage on the back end. And then, again, the uncertainty with Rod Moore, I think is big. I mean, again, before, that news came out potentially that, he, tore his ACL as it was reported elsewhere, that Wink Martindale kind of compared him to Eric Weddle, again, saying he was like the man who organizes the entire defense, really understands the scheme itself. I mean, you lose a player like that, especially when at a position as vital as, safety, where, they're coordinating things on the back end and, seeing things from a global perspective. I think it's a real problem there potentially. And then, Hausman's he's a good player, but again, somewhat limited athletically, actually. I mean, not the greatest in pass coverage. And, the linebackers do have to, pick up guys in coverage. And I'm just curious to see how all this is going to fit together. I mean, again, they've got some talent across the board that's returning, and there's no doubt about it. But again, it has to fit with the scheme, and Wink Martindale is going to have to adjust to the talent that he has available to him, and maybe some of the previous things that they ran. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be willing to do this. The guy has his own ways of doing things, and it's going to be interesting. And again, I feel like the assistants under him not haven't necessarily worked with him. So, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, they have to get on the same page too, the assistants. I mean, it was a lot better operation last year, I mean, across the board, just because, I mean, everybody had familiarity with kind of the same scheme, the same ideas, and also the coaching staff had a lot more continuity there too. So I think that is a big reason why I'm not so confident that the defense will finish number 1. I mean, maybe top 10, but even that, I don't even know. I mean, again, they're also playing a tougher schedule too. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, they're going to be playing a lot better offenses probably across the board. I mean, you've got Oregon, you've got USC,
Texas, Washington.
Texas, Washington. Yeah, Texas, I mean, in particular, I mean, could really light things up. And that's going to be a really big test second week. I mean, I don't even know about Fresno State. I'm not certain about them, but I mean, that's a quality team too, or was last couple of years.
I'm just going to give a quick shout out to my mom, Fresno State graduate. So she likes the Bulldogs. Well, actually, she doesn't care at all, but it's what I think about. Okay, Andrew, you were smiling. Was he?
Yeah, because I was pissed.
Were you in lockstep with him?
Yeah, because I had like my whole case laid out, and then I was like, he's not saying my case. He's not saying my case. And he goes, and the schedule. Who could forget the schedule? Because that's exactly where I was going to go was the schedule. I mean, you have Texas, like you said, USC with, I mean, you really want to go up against the Lincoln Riley offense. I mean, they're going to put up points at least. Even some of the teams like the lower teams, should be better than last year. You have Michigan State not being coordinated by Jay Johnson. I mean, they're going to score more than 0 points, most likely. You have, I was looking at Washington, they now have Jed Fish in charge. He had an awesome Arizona offense last year. So I just think in Ohio State's offense, I would be surprised if it's as bad as last year's offense, at least, in the Michigan game. It might statistically, I think it ended up being okay by the end of the year, but I think their offense should be improved as well. So I was going to point to the schedules as why I think, I mean, you're just talking a lot of names that are stacking up, a lot of pretty good offenses that are going to make it tough to be the number 1 defense in the nation.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. You guys talked me off of this one pretty quick. But I look at the name. I wasn't, what we came up with. We had this concept, right? And it's hard to dial the right level of spice, right? Maybe I should have said top 5. My point is that this is going to be a fantastic unit coming back. And which a lot of people think they'll be really good, but I don't think people know just how good. But to your point, they might be playing 3 to 4 of the best 10 offenses in America, which normally does not happen. So it
definitely didn't happen last year.
When they were running up
with the whole Big Ten last year. I mean, everybody was. You look at the top. Like, I mean, I know Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan had really great offenses, but do you really think those are the 3 best units in the country? I mean, some of that had to be the Big Ten as a whole. I mean, whether it's the style of play or whether it's the style. Did I say offense? I meant defense. So whether that's style of play or the weak schedule. I think that was too high of ranks to not be to be a coincidence is the best way to say it, I think.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, the Big Ten's ineffective offenses were a large part why the Big Ten always had, 4 teams in the top 6 or whatever in defense the last couple of years. I mean, it was kind of like a running joke. I mean, and like I kept asking Minter about that the last couple.
Yeah, I remember that.
And like, I mean, he didn't necessarily disagree. I mean, it's part of why if you have to go against, again, maybe the Pac-12, I don't know if they finish number 1. I mean, because then the style of play is affected too.
It is, but last year, Michigan's defense was the best defense in America.
It was. I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, I think overall, yeah, they were definitely the best defense in America. I mean, I don't.
But you can be the best and not finish statistically as the best. I think is
yeah. I mean, that's right. That was a possibility. Again, if they played in the Pac-12, I think they it would have maybe skewed the numbers a little bit for sure.
Yep. Yeah, it also would have skewed the offensive numbers. You could have put up 942 points against USC. Maybe they'll do that this year.
Exactly. I mean,
all right.
Styles make.
Speaking of someone who's going to tear USC apart, number 2, Colston Loveland will lead Michigan in receptions and yards and receiving touchdowns this season. The trifecta. We'll go Andrew first.
I am actually going to go with a 2. I'll get to my reason why, but I think it's like a 2. I don't think that's that spicy.
Okay.
I don't think that's that spicy.
Okay, Reiner?
Yeah, I think that's a 2.5. I mean, I think there's a good possibility that he's going to be the top target for Michigan. I mean, when you have a new quarterback, especially one that's maybe not accurate, which, I mean, is the potential with Alex Orji, I mean, you were going to want a big-bodied receiver. I mean, that was the problem in 2020 with Joe Milton. I mean, Milton was like, again, trying to get into that starting role. And when Nico Collins decided to opt out for that pandemic season, they lost their big target. And I think that was a huge factor in why, Milton ultimately bombed in that role and ended up ultimately transferring to Tennessee. But I think, they're going to have to use Loveland early, often, and he's going to have to be kind of counted on because I think, again, he's going to provide easy outlets potentially for Orji, who's, again, his passing acumen is questionable at this point. I mean, there really hasn't shown it at the college level, and I don't know if that's his strength as much as they hope that it eventually evolves into something that can be really powerful for them.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, I think in the same way that you guys just talked me off of this last time, I think I may talk you into realizing this is a little spicier than I think it sounds on surface. Like, yes, Colston Loveland is the proven guy, the veteran guy. Of course, a quarterback who hasn't run an offense is going to need that safety valve, that check down, that outlet. I'm going back through the years, and I'm now into 2011. And tight end has never led Michigan in receiving. I'm now in 2010. We're at Roy Roundtree. Roy Roundtree again in 2009. And Martavius Odoms in 2008. Wow, there's a throwback. That was a tough year, Martavius Odoms. But I mean, this is not something that just happens. Like even last year, yes, of course there was Roman, of course there was Cornelius, but Colston Loveland, I don't think has ever caught more than 4 or 5 touchdowns in a season, right? And Samaj Morgan was coming on at the end of last year. Tyler Morris will be an every down wide receiver for this team, right? Like there will be guys who have to step up. So I just think I mean, to lead the team in all three, in touchdowns, in catches, and yards. If Colston Loveland does that, I mean, I think that would be a problem personally. If I'm Michigan, I hope that's not how things pan out.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it would be not the ideal scenario. I mean, the question is like, again, who are those receivers that are going to step up? I mean, and can Tyler Morris be consistent and deliver that, and can Samaj Morgan do more than basically catch things in the slot, or off of a motion, and in those kind of like bubble screen type of situations. I mean, can he do more than that? And is there going to be a deep threat outside of maybe Colston Loveland going down the seam or something? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of questions about the receiver core. I mean, and that's been an issue really, for quite a while at Michigan. I mean, again, even when they had Nico Collins and Donovan Peoples-Jones, and so they had really talented guys. I mean, they never really fully realized their max their potential as receivers. And so I think, a case could be made that Nico Collins actually has outperformed, his college, statistical, or in basically the NFL. I mean, he's just basically, proven to be much better than I think in the NFL than he was in college, although he was the top target. And I think he would have been a very huge asset for Michigan in 2020 and may have actually changed the complexion of that season.
So I'm actually going to make my make my case through a comparison, I should say. Last year's defending champions, just like Michigan coming off a defending championship, Georgia Bulldogs, Brock Bowers led the team in receiving yards and in touchdowns. So Colston Loveland is not Brock Bowers. I don't think any of us are going to say.
What about receptions?
He also led the team in receptions by 2. So he led in all 3. Okay. So Brock Bowers is a more, I think he's a more polished prospect. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's why this take was a good take. That's why it's a good take. Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't be mad that we don't think it's spicy. Yeah, exactly. Brock Bowers is a better prospect. He's more well-rounded. He's probably a slightly more talented receiver. But he only played 10 games, and he still led Georgia in receiving yards, receptions, and in touchdowns, receiving touchdowns. So the reason that I think that this is a possibility is there's a lot of comparisons. You have a new quarterback coming in. You still have a very talented defense. Michigan is going to be a good enough team where they're still going to be able to win some games, especially the 12-team playoff. Like they're going to be right there, and they're going to be playing some tight games. So I think they're going to rely on the tight end a lot, especially early in the year. Because Samaj Morgan going from, hey man, can you make a big play every once in a while, to hey, you're the guy is a pretty big jump. So I think that Loveland is going to be relied on heavily, and yeah, I think it's a good take, Tony. So nice job on that one.
No, I appreciate it. I just, to put Colston Loveland, I mean, if you have to be Brock Bowers to do this, who is maybe the best college tight end of a decade, right? Like, I think that means that.
Yes, yeah, but he only played 10. First of all, he only played 10 games last year. Secondly, I think that, it's more about the style of play. I mean, people have always said that Georgia and Michigan kind of play that same style. That's why Georgia was the matchup nightmare for Michigan, because they have the dudes that Michigan does on steroids.
Could you name another Georgia offensive player other than Ladd McConkey, our favorite?
I was going to say Reiner's guy, Ladd McConkey. I mean, Carson Beck, their quarterback, would be the only other one.
Right. I meant skill position. I can't. I don't remember.
I have the roster in front of me, so I'm not going to cheat.
Okay, so that'd be cheating. Okay, Reiner, how do you feel about Ladd McConkey to the Lions at 29? Quickly.
I'd rather have Bowers.
He's not going to be there. He's not going to be there. And the Lions don't need.
I don't know. I'm not necessarily sold on McConkey at the pro level.
Come on, what?
He ran like
that breaks my heart. I was watching him run at the combine. I'm like, this is Reiner's guy.
I don't know.
I
can't believe this just happened.
I was invested in on Reiner's behalf.
I mean, what I just want to know, like, what's he going to provide that, like, that's going to differentiate himself from St. Brown?
Oh no, I mean, I understand. I think that's exactly right. I think that's why people are saying no. Because he's a slot receiver, a little same type, right? And that's not no. you're totally. I just mean as an NFL guy, next level. I was joking about him coming to the Lions, but then.
But I don't know how he would translate to the NFL either. I mean, like, again, it's
I've seen some people pretty ballsy on him. So,
yeah.
All right, that'll end this portion of the Lad McConkey show. We got to take a quick break. On the other side, got 3 more little bit of rapid fire hot takes. Don't go anywhere. This is Hell Yes. All right, welcome back. Hot take number 3. We wanted to get to it. Finally, quarterbacks. And you guessed it beforehand, Reiner, but I still think it's maybe a little spicy. Alex Orji will not be the starting quarterback against Fresno State. Didn't see that coming, did you?
Well, that's interesting. I want Andrew to chime in on what his rating is first.
I'm going to go like 3.9. But I will say the shock value, I mean, you can see it in Reiner's face. I wish people were watching right now. Reiner's face, he's like, whoa. So I'm going to go 3.9, but I'll round it to a solid 4 because of the shock value.
Okay, Reiner?
Actually, yeah, I'll go around 4 too. But the reason why I'm not going higher is because, I mean, there's a possibility that, they could pick up a transfer quarterback, and that's where I see you going. I mean, I don't think you're saying that somebody else on the roster is going to overtake him, but I mean, now if you are, then I'd probably raise the spice level a little bit higher. Yeah.
I'm leaving it open-ended because this is not going to be a high-flying offense. It never was. However, Michigan will have to win this year this way they have before with ball control. And I think, yes, there are a ton of things that a mobile quarterback can do. And I still think it's right now, it is probably the most likely scenario that Alex Orji starts. However, I think they find a way to not get there because, and that's, I'm not trying to play both sides. I'm trying to say that I obviously see the path to Orji starting. But the reason I think maybe you go the other way is because they have not trusted him to throw a pass, right? At any time. To go from that to keys to the offense go is an unbelievable jump. I haven't heard his name that much this year. I'm not sure why. I keep hearing how Denegal's throwing a nice ball. They call him Davis Warren. Dave is throwing a nice ball. I still think Jack Tuttle coming back for a 7th year, and I know you don't like the 7th year. That's a separate point. I just feel like there's something with I mean, he was mobile enough. If you remember in those limited times, late game, I mean, he was running, and it doesn't matter who's on the field or how bad they are. You just need to be able to extend the play. He hasn't thrown an interception in a couple of years, right? Just manage the offense. Just do the bare minimum. He was like 15 to 17 last year. He knows exactly how to run what they want. He's JJ McCarthy, light, like the lightest, like a D- version, but it's the same. I just think it's the safer play. And with a defense like this, and with an offense that you just don't want to put your defense in a bad scenario, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I can see your point there. I mean, and it's tough to assess what they have with really Orji. I don't know. I mean, but the question is whether they feel Orji might give them the best chance with a rebuild offensive line. I mean, when you have a mobile quarterback, it kind of helps avoid some of the pass protection issues that can arise when you're basically turning over an entire offensive line. So I think in that sense, he might give Michigan the best shot in that in that capacity. Question is whether they find another quarterback who's also mobile through the transfer portal. And again, April 16th, when the floodgates open, talk to a coach, and he says like the church doors opening. I mean, it's going to be unprecedented the amount of people going in the portal, and so. Because, I mean, you basically can transfer as many times as you want, and then you have the NIL inducements with the court ruling and everything. So, I mean, there's going to be quarterbacks that are going to be available. The question is, can Michigan get those guys, with their transfer restrictions and the credit transfers. But I think they'll have some options in the portal, and that's where I could see where Orji might not be the starter on day one.
That's where Michigan, not that they would say this publicly, right? But you want an experienced quarterback, and the place there, it looks like you can get the most experienced quarterback. It's not clear yet who, but per what you're saying, it feels like it's kids coming in the portal.
Yeah, and
or like the possibility is there, not like it is imminently coming.
But it also might be important for them to see buy-in with the players that they already have there. I mean, again, Colston Loveland would be an attractive option. I mean, if the offense is malfunctioning during spring, I mean, it sounds like the defense definitely has the upper edge on the offense so far. I mean, like to see buy-in and keep guys happy amongst the skill position players there. You're going to have to sell the idea that you can get a quarterback in that can run the offense. And so if they're not happy with the options that they have there, like the actual players and the skill players, it may be essential for Michigan to actually go into the portal and get somebody just to create the idea that that they want to run a functional offense. Because I mean, if they're not making much progress this spring, like again, we're not in on practice, so we can't see that. But I mean, it could become an issue for them if they want to keep guys in the fold here.
It seems like Alex Orji is, I don't know about if the guy, but I mean, they didn't like last year with Oregon State. Everyone now talks about how Aiden Childs, the guy who came to follow Jonathan Smith to Michigan State, they'd get him in every third drive just so he wouldn't, in today's day and age with the transfer portal. Well, Michigan worked Orji into to random, run plays and stuff. I think that makes you think that they're at least somewhat or were somewhat invested in him and at least invested in him not transferring. So that's why I think this is a semi-hot take. And because you currently look at their roster. But I mean, no one would be shocked if they went to the transfer portal route and at least brought in competition to push them, right? I mean, so that's what would make this a slightly less spicy take.
Right. No, I think you're both right. And it doesn't, for the first time in a couple of years, Reiner, I'm excited for the spring game. Like, actually, you know what I mean? Or I don't know if you feel the same way. I'm very eager to see what some of these new guys look like. Last year, it was just,
Well, no, I mean, I was kind of curious to see JJ in the spring last year. I mean, just to see if, just to watch him, coming off that TCU game and everything. I mean, just to see.
What was there to learn? I have no idea, none, what Alex Orji looks like as a quarterback operating an offense.
I agree. No, I mean, I think it's very intriguing to see this particular.
I mean, this new line. You know what I mean? Like
for the defense, yeah, I think there's a lot of.
I almost want to see him go ones on one. I think
it would be great if they did. I mean, again, Alabama
maybe first offense on second defense.
Yeah,
give him a chance.
That's what Alabama used to do. They used to do one offense versus two defense, and one defense versus two offense. And so I think
they did it in East Lansing as well.
Yeah,
I imagine they do it. I mean, that's common. I mean, we did that on junior varsity football, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah, it makes sense.
So that's not novel exactly, but I mean, I think we're going to learn a ton. We're going to see. Although I will not get baited by another, and not that I was last year, but there will be a Peyton O'Leary game, right? Like someone's catching 6 passes for 125.
Yeah, but I think the guy was underutilized. Honestly, I think he actually is a good player and he could get open. It didn't matter who he was going up against. I mean, and you kept on hearing that. I mean, even in spring practice, they mentioned that his name has come up, and I don't understand. Is it just because he's a walk-on? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it seems like he has some ability, and so I'd be curious to see if they. I would like to see them actually try to use them. So, because I mean,
were you still there? I think it might have been Tuesday actually, but you were in East Lansing after players. We were talking with some of the reporters stayed a little bit after, how we will, and we're talking with Michigan's staff and about what players are coming later this week. And hey, how about this guy? How about that guy? Trying to see who is available. It was funny. Peyton O'Leary was walking by. We were like, hey, how about him? And then people were talking to Peyton. They're like, hey, Peyton, they're clamoring for you. He goes, who? He goes, the media. They're like, the media. He goes, oh. He made a face and he just kept walking. It was actually pretty funny. But yeah, no, who knows? We'll see. All right. We're speeding this up. Number 4, the Donovan Edwards will not be Michigan's starting tailback by November. He will not be, let me rephrase that. He will not be the focal back, the feature back, the number 1 lead back by November. Reiner first.
Okay. Oh, me first. Okay. I would put that at a 4.5.
Yeah, we're talking. Okay. Hold.
Maybe even higher, actually. Maybe 4.8, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Andrew.
featured or starting?
What? I guess let me just clarify.
I guess featured because he got a start. Remember, I know Reiner remembers 2 years ago after he made some insensitive social media remarks. He got his first career start the next day or the next week at Michigan State, but it's not like he went into some new role. They just happened to come out in a 2 running back set. So
they started in like the national championship game and stuff too.
Yeah, we all know what I mean. Starter, feature, premier, the guy. He is the whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
I'm going to go with a 3 then because he just last year was a lot of question marks. So I'm going to go with a 3.
That's where I'm at as well. I'm leaning that way as a non-zero possibility because really it was what Kirk Campbell said. One of the first, I think it might've been actually the day before they started spring practice, right? He's explaining and talking about putting players in position to be successful. If Donovan Edwards ran 113 times for 393 yards and 3 touchdowns the first 14 games last year behind that offensive line, what is it going to look like when it is, yes, new. I'll put new in air quotes because Gio's been around and Crippen's been around, and Percy, and like it's names we know, and Miles. This was the second unit. These guys didn't play last year. They played in the fourth quarter. They played when they were up by 35. This is an entirely new, fresh unit. This is not the 2-time Joe Moore Award winners. This is not the national champion line. These are the guys who learned from them. And so there's reason to believe they can be quite good. There's a lot of talent in the room, but talent and melding a new offensive line are entirely different things. And Donovan wasn't running well. I think personally, he's an incredible athlete. He is good. He's always polite, cordial, good young man with us. I'm not saying things negatively about him. As a running back, you've heard me say it, I'm just not there. I don't think he has the natural vision. He's just so fast and explosive and can do it all, which is why it's so enticing. But I just think when holes aren't there like they have been, and they weren't even there really last year, it's just, and then you got a guy like, I know we've only seen him very limited, but what I've heard and what I saw him run, Ben Hall, someone like that, get a Kalel Mullings. I just think it's sort of, it kind of fits with what I'm thinking about this offense, right? Like it's going to be conservative. I think it's going to be pound. They're not going to be going for that explosion. I need 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Kalel gets me that. Ben Hall gets me that. I don't know that Donovan does. And so they're going to split him out wide. And I think he'll be a big part of the offense. But when the calendar turns to November, they're not going to be handing it 15, 20 times to Donovan Edwards, I don't think.
I can see your point. I just think that they're pretty invested in him. And I think, when you have so much offensive turnover, I think it's important to have somebody like that. People can look to like that guy's a leader. When a person like that gets demoted, it raises questions, I think, and creates some, divide sometimes within the locker room, even about that. Like people feel like, it's unfair to this person. He's put in all the work. This was his year to shine. And so like, I don't think that, that's just to be the total factor, obviously, in the decision-making process. He's going to obviously have to perform, but I think he's capable of that. I also wonder how much his performance was affected by the knee injury that he had and the surgery, and it was a slow process to get back to where he was, because he did look a lot more effective. I mean, you looked at the Penn State game, and then obviously in the Washington game, like he started to gain some steam towards the end of the year, where there was some flashes of what Donovan Edwards looked like before. But I mean, again, if he continues along the path that he did last year, where it was like, he's picking up 1 yard and then 2 yards and then getting knocked back 3 or 4 yards. And I mean, they're getting behind the chains because of him. And it was obvious that the offensive momentum was stalling when he was on the field. Then yes, you can see the November. But I mean, I'm banking on him being somewhat better than last year and the injury affecting his performance. So that's why I put it at 4. But if it's the way that if it's going to be a repeat of that, then obviously it's it's a 2 or 1 spicy take, because I mean, there's no way that they can continue with him in that role.
Yeah, I think all the points that you guys said make Donovan a bit more of a question mark than maybe people give him credit for. But I think, he gives and he takes, right? Like, he has a bad game, he has a bad game, he has a bad game. And then he has the national championship game. Then he has a bad game. Then he has the Ohio State game last year. Like, the guy clearly shows up for big games. And he's back again, and he's experienced some of the big games. Tony's making a face. But I think that he's going to have a role, certainly. But I don't think the leash will be insanely long if he struggles again to start the season. And you saw by the end of the year, I mean, Donovan wasn't getting a huge amount of carries. He was not a big part of the offense. So yes, they had Blake Corum, but running backs are not impossible to find. So I think if he's not performing, I don't anticipate Michigan giving him an insanely long leash.
Donovan Edwards had 12 touches for 36 yards against Ohio State last year. Was that a big game?
I'm talking about
he had 4 rushes. He had 4 rushes for 11 yards against Alabama in the Rose Bowl. It was kind of a big game. 4 rushes for 28 against Iowa in the Big Ten title game.
Right, but does Michigan win the national championship in a blowout without Donovan Edwards? No.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying, like, he does have a knack.
I'm saying yes, they do.
Yeah.
I'm saying yes, they do win in a blowout without Donovan Edwards. Yes, he had those 2 plays.
Not in that fashion, though. I mean, not in that fashion where the first two handoffs are just like boom, boom. Oh, this thing's.
I think that's I'm not. It sounds like I'm sounding like such a hater. I'm not trying to take it away. I'm just. There were so many times. I mean, and by sitting, we really get a pretty good bird's eye view a lot of time, Reiner, right? Sitting up in the box, and I'm not being like press box guy. No one cares about that. But it's just I've never gotten to watch plays develop like this, and I don't know how many times I watched Donovan Edwards straight miss holes, just avoid them. And I mean, was it Penn State or? He had one, maybe it was a 22-yarder against Penn State. That might be the run you're referring to, Reiner. It should have been a touchdown. Yeah. He ran directly into the back of his guy, then turned, just bounced back, and the whole half of the field was open, if I'm remembering correctly. It's just yes, he's had, I mean, Donovan Edwards is a Michigan legend, full stop. He has already done this. He's already done great things, and he's one of the highest rated recruits. He was the national championship MVP. You're totally right. It's too hit or miss for me to be my gotta have it guy. It's like he doesn't really fall forward. He's not really a short yardage guy. He doesn't have that knack for the end zone like Blake did last year. I mean, Blake, how many rushes did Blake have inside the 5? Like 40, and how many went for touchdowns? Like 28. I estimated those numbers, but it was anytime he touched it, he was in. Donovan Edwards, I think, was less than 50%. They gave him chances to score on the goal line. Remember, against Indiana, pulled. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I for his sake, for Michigan's sake, I hope you're right, Reiner. I hope it was the knee. And I mean, he told us just the way he was talking to us the other day, he seemed different, right? And I asked him about it. He was talking about getting that fire back. Maybe I'm entirely wrong. And maybe he looks like the Donovan Edwards of the final 3 games of 2022, where he ran for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he's a first-team All Big Ten running back. That's not where I'm at. I don't see it.
I think that, I mean, those are good points, and but I also think, again, Donovan Edwards realizes it's a make or break year for him too, and he's really going to have to make some kind of positive impression based off of what happened last year, as it relates to his draft stock and such. So again, when you're in a contract year, so to speak, you tend to bring out the best, and so I think he looks at it as like a contract year.
Nailed it. He said he expected to be gone last year. He came back to get that money. And you're right. It's a different beast. It's a great point. Okay. I was kind of out of takes for this team. So I went Michigan affiliated for number 5. God, this one, this is tough. I didn't really know what to do, but I could see it. So I'm going to say it. Because I could see it. Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy will win a Super Bowl. J.J. McCarthy.
As a backup?
Win a Super No. He'll be on the field. He will lead the way. He will lead the offense.
How soon are we talking?
What year you go?
Paint us a picture. Are we talking Washington Commanders? Are we talking Minnesota Vikings? Are we talking landing on a sweet team?
I'm not saying I can't pick the team too. I'm talking in 5 years. In 5 to 7 years.
You just took the spicy level up quite a bit, so I'm going to go with a full-fledged 5.
Okay, I thought
in the next 5 years.
I thought that took it down. I was like, what am I supposed to say?
No.
Talking like late first contract, right when they need to re-sign, like are thinking about extending him, whoever. I think it, and I mean, I guess if we're going to say it, doesn't it just feel like it is going to be Minnesota? Like they are going to make the package and they are going to go up top 5, and that goes 4 or 5. Either they got to go with Arizona or the Giants. And then, of course, Jim Harbaugh gets essentially pick number 2 after just the run of quarterbacks at the top, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. So I'll say that JJ, that wouldn't be very fun for the Viking. We don't want to say that for the Lions contingent. I don't know if he goes to Minnesota. JJ McCarthy will win. I'm banking on him to be a winner wherever he goes. And you said like 5, Reiner.
Yeah, no, I would put that at a, I don't know, 4.5. I mean, it's possible. I don't know how he'll translate to the NFL level. I don't think anybody really knows, and so the question is, whether he can make that jump, and then obviously be able to do enough to guide an offense to, through the whatever NFC or AFC playoffs, which again is a grind in and of itself. I mean, again, the best chance of you being able to do that is to get home field advantage. So that means having a really good regular season. Can he do that itself? I mean, yeah, there's so many other factors at play. I mean, again, I've always said that, having covered the NFL, I mean, players are really based on the situation they're put in. And so if they're in a good organization, or the scheme fits them or whatever, the coach is good. All of it has a factor on whether they have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, Tony Romo, I thought, was a pretty darn good quarterback, really probably elevated his team to just get to, basically 8-8 playoff level some years. I mean, 12-4. I mean, the year that they went to the divisional round, and I was there when the Dez catch no catch. That was crazy because, again, if that was ruled a catch, they're probably going to the NFC I mean, and then he has a shot at the Super Bowl. That was their best chance to go to the Super Bowl, and it didn't happen. So there's a lot of things that have to go. I mean, if J.J. McCarthy can beat Tony Romo, he's going to have a pretty darn good career. But even Tony Romo didn't sniff the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so rookie, you're basically talking rookie contract, first 5 to 7 years, and just not many quarterbacks have won a Super Bowl on their rookie contract. We're talking, Russell Wilson famously did it. Ben Roethlisberger back in the day. Brock Purdy almost did it, but that's a pretty unusual circumstance.
Jalen Hurts almost did it.
Jalen Hurts almost did it. I believe Goff was he about to resign? He may have been on his rookie contract still. You're right. But and Joe Burrow almost did it as well. So a lot of people almost do it, but usually they fall just short if they do. So first of all, secondly, the teams that we're looking at JJ possibly going to aren't exactly perennial Super Bowl contenders. He's not landing with the 49ers when they traded up to get Trey Lance, so I just think it'd be pretty crazy if he did do it. So that's why I think it's a pretty spicy take.
Right. Well, I mean, this might have been the boldest for last. And so I'm glad Reiner said, I don't know how JJ is going to turn out in the NFL. It's a great point. I don't either. And I think a lot of people don't. Here's what I do know. I know JJ has an NFL arm. I know JJ has NFL legs. And I sure as know JJ has NFL moxie in terms of being able to handle the spotlight, in terms of being a locker room guy. Ooh, are we not allowed to swear? Okay. My bad. I know that he is someone who people will rally behind, who is going to be a leader. So I don't know if you watched what the Atlanta Falcons put out the other day, right? The Raheem Morris, it was like a 6.5-minute clip of him talking to the team. It was, it's just someone you'll want to play for, right? It's like I don't know anything about him, but I feel like he's going to be a guy. It's JJ McCarthy vibes. He's just a winner. Everywhere he goes, he's won.
Trevor Lawrence is a winner too.
I don't know. I didn't cover Trevor Lawrence. I don't know anything about Trevor Lawrence personally. I did not. Did Trevor Lawrence have the same type of I'm having a mind fart on the word, like everybody going to bat for him, right? The same, to a man, right? Just here, not about skill, but about who he is, right? Who JJ McCarthy is and I know that doesn't win you football games, but
Trevor Lawrence,
there's so much unknown. I want to gamble on what's known.
Right, but again, I'm going back to the situation. Trevor Lawrence at Urban Meyer is you're put in a situation not always that makes it easy to win. So that's the question. There's more than just being a good quarterback and having a pedigree of being a winner. You have to be in the right situation. You have to have the right culture, right organization. Again, certain guys, if they ended up with the Raiders back in the day when Al Davis was running things, their careers could have been totally changed, or vice versa. If they ended up with the Patriots. Look at Randy Moss. Randy Moss was terrible with the Raiders, and then he goes to the Patriots, and it's it's Randy Moss again. Randy Moss from the back. It's all about situation and, what organization they're in, how they run things, who the coach is, what the offense, what the offense looks like, and vice versa. If you're a defensive player, what the defense is. There are guys that I covered that, fit well with one system and were really extremely productive. And then they're basically rendered obsolete in a different system. And so it's all situational based, and that's the NFL. And so it depends on where JJ McCarthy lands. So it is possible that he could win a Super Bowl depending on if he gets in the right situation, but the chances of that are pretty slim.
Agreed. But I always find it funny and this is the last point and we're wrapping. I always find it funny, personally, my thought, when people talk about how hard it is. The only people who win Super Bowls are Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. No one else does it. Obviously, it's really tough, right? That's the standard people are being held to. They have won 50% of the last 2 decades worth of Super Bowls. It's against the odds for everyone. No one is going to win multiple, but when there are certain things that about someone, right? There are things that you don't. And JJ has everything he needs to win a Super Bowl. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
but your point is 100%. It's going to come down to the situation he's put in.
Yeah, stars align. Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, it depends on what organization, again, these guys, line up. And again, Joe Burrow ends up in the Bengals from 15 years ago. No, he probably is not even in position to win a Super Bowl.
I would love to see him play with Chad Johnson and TJ Hushmanzada. You take that back right now.
I don't know. I mean, again,
no, I know. But that would be fun.
Yeah, Marvin Lewis always bombed in the playoffs. I mean, and so it's like, it depends on, again, the organization. I mean, again, Lamar Jackson, may not even be playing quarterback if he was in a different organization than the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens, found a guy that fit their system, and they were going to build it around them, and totally was attuned with John Harbaugh's mindset, which was to run the football and everything else, and play off of with a mobile quarterback, which is what the Harbaugh family likes. They like having some guy that can stretch a defense in different ways. And so, I mean, again, it's like it's totally debate, based on the organization, the coach, the philosophy, everything. And so, I really feel like he's at the mercy of whatever team or organization that drafts him. So, but yeah, it's possible. I think he can do that if the stars align.
Yeah, no, he probably is. And we'll see what happens in just a couple weeks. And we are at the mercy of the clock. That's about all the time we have for this show. So I already said my thank yous. Thanks again to all involved. Please rate, review, subscribe. Apple Pod, Google, Spotify, what have you. Andrew, did you want to, I don't know, did you write them down? Did you want to wrap up where the spice level, the hot, I don't know, the hot meter? I don't know if we came up with anything catchy.
I'll just give a recap. So the consensus least spicy take was Colston Loveland to lead the team in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. I think it was a 2 for myself and a 2.5 for Reiner. And the spiciest one was the last one on JJ. And then the second spiciest take was take 1 on Michigan's defense, still finishing number 1 in the nation. I had that as a 4, and Reiner had it as a 4.8. So if you're taking notes at home, those are final standings.
Very good. Very good. A lot of heat coming, evidently. And I'm not necessarily saying that as a good thing, right? I don't know. It's up to you to decide if too much heat, not enough heat is bad, good, or indifferent. All right, that's enough for me. Gotta write about some football, then go learn about hockey. So that's the plan for the day. Thanks for everybody listening. We'll be back next week. This is Hail Yes.